Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today taking a look at a map of Bismuth Valley. This is always an awesome map because it's all front lanes, which means that we get to the action right away. Speaking of action, whenever I'm looking for these games, right, I there's a lot of things that I look for. There's potent combinations that are always really interesting. And one of those is when there's really high true skill players in the lobby and the replay file is very small, and the the replay timer is very short. When I see those two combinations, I know that I'm in for a banger of a match, and that means you are too. So today, spawning on our eastern side, our blue team, led here by SPM Big Fonzie. Always a popular player, always a very fan favorite, goes for some really fun builds, very prone to early aggression, and keeping those T1 units around and making a really good use out of them really late into the game. Well past T2, still finding great use for T1, which is very interesting. Very skilled player. We also see a lot of other memorable names here. Evolved Monkey, Caliber and Damus, Markfist, all players we've seen here and there. Very high quality players. But on the western side, our red team led by the Goopy himself. Goopy, 45 true skill, head and shoulders above everyone else here as far as true skill rating goes. True skill rating maybe doesn't account for everything, but in Goopy's case, it certainly accounts for a whole lot. This player is phenomenal. Also really good at that early game aggression, but very good at getting the absolute maximum efficiency out of every single unit that hits the field. Goopy is the man to watch. Other memorable players on Goopy's team, there's actually less of them. I recognize Towns. I recognize Racha. I think I recognize Disnoff. I'm not sure if we've covered Disnoff on the channel before. Disnoff also a very strong player, though. And most of the players up north I don't have much recollection of, so these are going to be having their debut match here as we get into this game. I think Markfist winning our Pump Out a Unit First award, the Brightworks official Get a Unit Out on the Field award. Winning that here with a couple of ticks that are moving forward into Rar's base. Now, Rar is not unprepared. We already have a grunt out to try and fend off these ticks, and it does a bad job. It does a really bad job. It misses a lot of those. The commander here for Steel Blue, it's a cool name, has to actually mop up most of that mess. But fortunately for the red team here, most importantly, Steel Blue and Rar, the tick is driven back from the face of the red team's economy. More ticks are being pumped out here, though. SPM Fonzie going to be pumping out a lot of ticks here. 102, to be precise. These are very precise numbers, of course. Very calculated in the amount of units that we're producing here. No, I'm joking about that. I'm not sure if that's true at all. Either way, these are enemy ticks here that are now chasing down some ticks from Big Fonzie. Little do they know that they're neither the first or the last ticks that will be found from Big Fonzie as they move forward here. This grunt, wow, hero grunt there, getting 4 kills. I'm not sure where the 4th came from, maybe a tick back here somewhere. What a hero. Going forth and shutting down a whole bunch of the aggression, those little light tick bot aggressors from Big Fonzie. You'll love to see it. And I love to see how much aggression comes out of all these players here, especially on maps like this where the metal richness is so high. We have bot labs across the entire face of the front lines here. It looks like, yeah, entirely bot labs. That's interesting. Usually we see at least a few vehicle labs, but nope, looks like these pros, they are looking to keep it bots, and more bots. Let's see, this side looks like, nope, we do have a vehicle lab here. Mole Man going for those vehicles first instead of some bots, which I think is a great idea, especially down here on the flats. If we look here, I guess there's no movement speed. Well, there's no penalty, but there's also no boost here. Some of these rocky terrains have a little bit of they actually give a boost. That's odd. You would think the rocky terrains would give a little bit of a disadvantage, but I suppose there's more traction there, so the vehicles have an easier time rolling over them. Is that off topic? I don't know. Anyway, we do see a little bit of aggression here coming out. Pierce? I think it's Pierce here, guarding this front line and denying this metal actually from Racha, which is really a huge deal. each of these metal spots on bismuth are actually a, whoops, didn't mean to jump over there. Each of these metal spots on bismuth are worth different amounts. So there's, generally speaking, two categories. There's 1.8s and there's 2.8s. And of course you want to capture the 2.8s, those are worth a lot more. And typically speaking, any of them that you see that are less spread out or they're not in a cluster, any of those are going to be a 2.8. So all of the ones along this central line right here, all of the metal extractor spots right here, all the way from the bottom up to the north here are all 2.8, making them extremely valuable to keep a hold of. Now, speaking of keeping a hold of them, Damus pushed up super far here, claiming not one, not two, but three of these middle mech spots. Typically one of these would go to this player, maybe two, if they're contesting this lane all on their own. But Damus actually setting up an impressive defensive line here and making sure that as much of this metal goes back to him as possible. We are E-stalling here, and it's really hard to keep up on that energy production when there's so much metal that you want to pump out units, you want to pump out economy, all of it, you want to do it all at the same time. There's too much to build, not enough time to build it. I think I would like to see this bot lab paused for at least a little bit. Oh, okay, this isn't repeated actually. So this queue will run out, at which point the economy will ramp up production dramatically. Very nice to see here. Now there's a bit of a breakthrough here. A couple of grunts managed to sneak through past the front lines, but there's a ton of units being pumped out here by Big Fonzie and as well by Pierce. So I think eventually these grunts will get mopped up. Maybe. Those grunts, I mean, we've talked about it before. The grunts outrange pawns, so they can technically, they outrange pawns and they have the same movement speed. So technically they can be kited to have infinite efficiency, right? If you technically move the grunts backwards at the same speed, you retreat from the pawn at the same speed, the pawn cannot catch up and you will technically technically win the battle. How many times can I say technically in one sitting here? It is very technical though. You have to micro those units extremely precisely, otherwise the pawns will jump on top of your grunts and you will have a really bad day. Evolved Monkey actually losing control of the lane here. The construction bot is brought to the front so that we have some beamers, the sort of medium light laser turret. Medium light laser turret? That doesn't make sense. The medium laser turret that is not light. It is medium. Up here on the front lines, these fire a consistent, steady beam, sort of like a, well, I guess like a laser. But it does tickle down those units very nicely. It also has enough range to outrange the early rocket bots. We have another little run through here, but there's quite a few maces, so I think we are probably going to be looking all right here. Yeah, a couple of the maces going down. These metal extractors are really the biggest hit that came out of this, but a lot of these pawns are going to leave wrecks as well, which is just more free metal to lap up here for Evolved Monkey. So I don't think this is too terrible of a position at all. Now, Pet Turtle was right to break out of this as quickly as possible. We need to see these metal extractors taken because otherwise that advantage is going to fall out of your favor. Luckily for Pet Turtle, Evolved Monkey's mexes are down right now. This whole line of mexes is brought down by this contingent of pawns, meaning that the economy for Evolved Monkey is much, much lower. A couple of more units moving through on the southern side here. Discussing spectating spectators. That's a trick I never knew you could do. Apparently you can spectate someone who is spectating the match. It's quite meta. Quite meta indeed. 2ZK versus 2ZK. I'm not sure what that means. But either way. Nice little fight going on here. Mostly Markvis versus Steel Blue. Therexy and Rar have both... Well, Rar's moving the units in, actually, so mostly just Markvis versus Steel Blue and Rar. Therexy does not have any units. Ah, we are teching, that's why. I see. So hoping to get that technology lead, make sure that this the reclaim here is on point so that there's a T2 jump that'll be available. Hopefully that comes out soon because Markvis is being pushed back slowly but surely by this massive amount of rocket bots. There's rocket bots, there's also these artillery units. What are these called here? The Shell Shocker. Beautiful unit, I love those. I love the artillery in this game. I love, well, everything about this game. If you love everything about this game, feel free to subscribe down below. We are almost to 1,000 subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. At which point it becomes trivial. It becomes all about views, in case anybody is curious. But every one of you down there, all 800 or so of you that are there already, you have my appreciation, my gratitude, and my thanks for being such an awesome community already. Looking forward to growing with you guys. Goopy, dangerously low here. Artillery raining down from above. The Agitator also very low, but manages to stay alive at 9% health. Oh, I spoke too soon. We are going to see some res bots trying to bring it back to life, but I don't know if there's going to be enough of them to bring it back quick enough. Fonzie pushing forward very aggressively, making sure that this thing stays down. He does not want this Agitator up anymore. D-guns it just to be sure, and I think that was a brilliant play by Fonzie there. Now, there are also a ton of grunts building down in the south here, and Fonzie is quite overextended with the commander here, so we could definitely see the grunts move north. They do not. Okay, interesting. The grunts are going to move south instead to try and help with, wow, this tremendous push. Turtle actually pushing back Evolved Monkey. That's quite an upset. Evolved Monkey is a really strong player, and, well, let's just say I don't have much experience with Pet Turtle, but I guess this puts him on the radar as a player we should take a look at more often here. Pet Turtle pushing a tremendous lead here. Is Fonzie teching, or not Fonzie, is Monkey teching, or we're just behind on production here? I guess the Resurrection War is just strictly in the favor of Pet Turtle, meaning that this push is actually getting quite a lot of traction here. Now the micro for Evolved Monkey is going to be in his favor if it's done properly, because the units are going to be coming out of the bot lab closer to Evolved Monkey here. We do see a commander being going down, or a commander being going down. Wow, being chilling. Commander going down here. Looks like it was Caliburn's commander going down to stop that massive swarm of grunts. I think all things considered, that actually was probably a fairly decent trade, considering the fact that if those grunts had pushed through, they would have absolutely ravaged Big Fonzie's base. They probably would have ravaged this base down here, Pierce's base. Was it Pierce's commander? Actually, it looks like it was Pierce's commander, not Caliburn's. I'm looking at it and I'm like, Caliburn's way up here. And indeed, Caliburn's commander sitting AFK right here on the front lines. Well, a little bit behind the front lines, but you get what I mean. Pet Turtle now up at the front lines, repairing his troops as desperately as he can. I don't hate that at all, actually. I think that's probably a good idea. The beamer turret out now. You can see how this thing works. It just fires a steady, consistent output of damage. Oh, the ticks come in with the pawns. That's actually phenomenal, because the ticks can do just enough damage to trigger the surround bonus. And yeah, the commander actually goes down, so that's going to be a huge swing here in favor of Evolved Monkey. You can see Monkey now has the reclaim bots out in order to actually pick up a lot of these units and fold them back in on the front lines. So that's going to be a tremendous advantage here, but we do see a push taking advantage of this lane that they've carved out here from Pierce and actually managing to push through as fast as they can. A bunch of grunts managed to get through. They're taking down the economy. They're headed straight for the windmills. Big Fonzie, very quick to react, very high APM. Notices that these grunts are moving dangerously close to his economy centers and decides it's time to step in. Fonzie with a huge amount of LLTs in the front, so not worried about his line, has enough units and enough time to spend fixing this little mistake here as Pierce techs up. Tragic timing indeed. Couldn't have said it better myself there. Absolutely phenomenal. So what do we look like on a macro scale here? Well, the north is completely pushed in. Markvis is on a full retreat, but it looks like the Tech 2 units are finally out here for Thyrexi, meaning that hopefully Markvis is going to be receiving a T2 constructor soon, and the T2 units will be enough to mop up these units. Indeed, the Fiends are sweeping in from the side here, and we all know just how devastating those Fiends can be. Yep, there they go, tearing apart these aggravators with no problems. Oh, don't stop them though. That's a problem. Never mind, I spoke too early. Taking quite a few hits from these missile bots. Yeah, not getting quite as efficient a trade as you were probably hoping for, but still way better than anything that the T1 lab could have pumped out. So all things considered, not too bad at all. On a macro scale, though, we were just talking about that. I was saying that I like the position here for the red team, but actually Damus still pressed this lead really, really nicely here in the middle of the map. So we actually see him almost to the base of Nimsoeg. Nimsoeg? However you pronounce that, the tan player there. Pushed all the way forward to that position, which is quite threatening there, especially considering that there's T2 units out already, and we are seeing quite a bit of aggression. Now there's also quite a bit of aggression back here. It looks like those T2 units are now having to contend with T1 medium bots, and those Sheldons, they're really, really good, but they definitely take quite a while to melt down those T1 vehicles. So this is going to take a while to clean up, and I'm not sure if that time is something that the Rexy has the luxury to spend. Actually taking quite a few hits here from these Januses. These Januses are so powerful. Oh, the last rockets. The Rexy goes down. Oh my goodness, what a play there. Absolutely astonishing. They actually get the commander here. But all things considered, I actually have to say that that commander is really far back on this line, and there's absolutely no way that Steel Blue is going to be able to keep up production in order to contest where that commander went down. Oh, and yet we can see it in the chat. Thorexy, thanks, bro. I needed the reclaim wall. I was going to self-destruct in my base soon. Wall. Yeah, a little bit of BM chat, I guess. But he's got a fair point, right? This is completely within his bounds to reclaim, so this actually is going to end up being a nice little boon to Thorexy's economy instead of Steel Blue's. All things considered, not a bad trade whatsoever. Now this area is still contested and these are still pumping out a ton of metal, so it is really important that these are dealt with quickly. It looks like Rar's commander pushed way too far forward here. 3 Fiends, more than enough, plus the Sheldon Fire to completely erase that from the face of Bismuth Valley. Now down here, Fiends have also started pushing forward, and we can see just how devastating these Fiends are to those T1 armies. This T1 army was brought back from the grave. It was meant to win this southern lane, and the Fiends had completely different plans. Now the Resurrection War is swinging more and more into the favor of Evolved Monkey, who's picking up these units and putting them back on the front line to contest the T1 units, but whatever T1 support he gets from his lane neighbor is going to be enough to scare these armies back, and so indeed, we actually see a bit of a turning of the tides here. Caliburn pushing forward with a few Fiends to try and make it towards the eco centers of this team. Not really sure what he's going for, just kind of trying to suss out exactly where he should be sending his units. He doesn't find anything with that batch of Fiends, but there's more to come, and they are so quick, so deadly, and so determined to tear down Nimswig's base. If we take a look here, those Fiends getting a nice little bit of damage here on the inside of this base. Very, very nicely done. And now the Fonzie rolls out. I saw a big queue of units, and I think it was all of this. Yeah, look at that. Fonzie using ticks and pawns in the late game here, or probably the mid game is probably a better classification. We're on T2 here. But the pawn or the tick army is moving forward. I want to get a shot of this. That's quite nice. The tick swarm. Absolutely beautiful. Look at those lasers. Hold on, let's just track one of these bad boys. There we go. Absolutely spectacular. I love to see all these ticks come out here, pushing forward into these bases. They get wedged in the little nooks and crannies that you just can't get your own units into, and they become such a pain to deal with. Absolutely impossible to clean those ticks out. It's like a termite infestation in your base. You just can't do anything about it. These energy converters go up in a big puff of smoke, tear down a chunk of economy back here. The ticks aren't done though. They're still harassing all over the place. Wow, what a phenomenal usage of those early game units. Always impressive to me just how effective Big Fonzie can still keep those T1 units even late into the game when they have absolutely no reason being that effective. And now, like, it would only take like a Juno to shut this down, sure, but for the time being there isn't a Juno, so why not take advantage of that nice little leap in technology, or rather that nice little chink in the armor, so to say, that nice little gap in the protection of the of the other team here. We see Fiends pushing forward too. Nimsweg is completely wiped off the face of the map. There's nothing left for this commander. We got a solar panel and a rocket bot, and that's basically it here. We see the hounds pushing forward, but they're not really doing much. Origami Pyro agrees. We see the T2 vehicles here as well pushing forward. They tear through those light laser turrets really easily too, so they're having a swell time pushing forward. The bulls are coming out, and I think the advantage has suddenly shifted firmly to the blue team here. The northern side of the map has been completely swapped. We now see tons and tons of units flooding the northern side of the map, and indeed the red team decides to tap in. I don't blame them, and that was a phenomenal hold from the green team. Their economy came up and online just in time. Their tech transitions were smooth. Big Fonzie with a huge play, sending those techs out, causing madness, chaos, APM taxation, everything in the book. What a phenomenal play. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you specifically. That's right, you. I'm pointing at you, although you can't see it. Thank you very much for your time and attention. It really does mean the world to me. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your day.